What's up, homies? It's Waldo, and today I'm here with my Madden 17 franchise team announcement. So, you guys gave me a lot of great suggestions in my last video. You guys suggested the Patriots, the Lions, the Bills, the Jets, the Bears, the Titans, the Browns, the Redskins, the Jaguars, the Oakland Raiders, the Bengals, the Vikings, the Giants, the Ravens, and the San Francisco 49ers. So you guys suggested 15 teams, and out of the 32 in the league, I was very happy to see that. You guys definitely gave me a lot to work with, and I decided to narrow that list down to 5 teams that I would want to use for my franchise in Madden 17. So today I'll be giving you guys that list, telling you why I didn't choose for the teams and why I did choose the team that ended up finishing number 1. So without spoiling anything, the 5 teams that I had on my final list were the Bears, the Ravens, the Lions, the Vikings, and the Redskins. So you'll see 3 NFC North teams, an NFC East team, and an AFC North team. So without further ado, let's get into these rankings and show why I didn't choose 4 of those teams. So we're going to start at number 5. I did rank these teams 1 to 5, and coming in at number 5 was the Detroit Lions. So this is their first season without Calvin Johnson. They do have a decent quarterback in Stafford that you can start off with. They also have solid defensive guys to build around in Ansah, Slight, and Levy, but you definitely need to add more to that as soon as possible. Golden Tate isn't a bad number 1 receiver to have, but you definitely need to, build up some receivers behind him. Right now, Anquan Bolden would probably be the number 2, and that's not good. I mean, the guy's 35 years old, nothing against him, but you probably want to find a younger and better alternative as quick as possible. Now, one of the positives, they do play in a tough division. They get to play Green Bay twice, Minnesota twice, and even Chicago twice. Those, I imagine they would be good games if I did choose the Lions. But the reason I didn't choose the Lions, Moonlight Swami, who is one of my favorite YouTubers, he really got me into making YouTube videos. It just seemed like he had a lot of fun doing it, so I figured I would start doing this, so shout out to him. He just did a Madden 16 franchise with the Lions, and having watched every part of that for the past few months, I feel like I might get bored quickly if I chose the Lions in Madden 17, considering how much of them I watched in Madden 16. So they were an attractive team to choose for sure for Madden 17. They were actually suggested twice in the comments section, but that is why I'm not going with the Lions. Coming in at number 4, the Washington Redskins. So you start off with a solid quarterback in Cousins, I suppose. You could obviously a lot of better options, but there's a lot of worse options out there too. Excuse me. Personally, I would want to replace him sooner or later. I think last year it was kind of a fluke season for him, and I think we'll see that this season. I don't think he's as good of a quarterback as people are making him out to be. Now, I hope he proves me wrong. I love seeing guys that, I'm down on. I love seeing them prove me wrong, because then, it's like, okay, well, I was wrong. I'm fine admitting that. He's a good quarterback or whatever in whatever scenario. But the lack of a surefire franchise quarterback is appealing with the Redskins in Madden 17. You could definitely find a guy, if not in the first draft, and then in, the second or third year draft to replace Cousins for sure. But the offense itself, aside from Cousins, you have a lot of weapons. You have Deshaun Jackson, you have Pierre Garçon, you have Josh Doxson at wide receiver. That's a nice trio to have, coming straight into a franchise. You also have one of the better tight ends in the league when he's healthy in Jordan Reed, and you have Matt Jones, who I think could be a very solid running back, at least in the game. I don't know about in real life, but in the game, I think he could be a solid running back. And the offensive line, which is anchored by Trent Williams, I think he's over a 90 overall, if I remember correctly, but if he's not, don't sue me. The line is okay. The defense in regards to Madden is great. Now, the Redskins are one of those teams where in the game, they're going to be pretty good. I don't think they're going to be as good in real life, but in the game, they're going to be solid. Norman is the best cornerback in the game, if I remember correctly, at this point. Now, that could change, but Ryan Kerrigan at outside linebacker is a nice luxury to have, and you have a solid safety in D'Angelo Hall. It could be better, but that's not a bad defensive trio to start out with. It's not like other teams where you don't have anything to work with. At least with the Redskins, you have something to work with on defense, and you have a lot to work with on offense. Now, the problem with the Redskins, the division they play in, is terrible, and coming from an Eagles fan, I definitely know that. It's arguably the worst in football. I kind of think the AFC South has overtaken it at this point. So I think the NFC East, it's definitely the worst division in football, which kind of stinks because, back in the day, it was one of the better divisions in football, in my opinion. It wasn't the best, but it was one of the better ones, and now it's just kind of gotten watered down so much. The teams aren't very good. They're all pretty mediocre. So, the rivalries are strong. That's for sure. but the games might not always be entertaining. We saw that a lot last year in real life. So that's kind of why I didn't choose the Redskins. It's not my Philadelphia bias. I mean, I want to be a sports broadcaster or a sports journalist, so my bias has kind of gone out the window at this point, which it kind of has to be when you want to go into the line of work that I want to go into. But moving now to the top three, the team that finished third on my list was the Minnesota Vikings. And by the way, I should mention the Redskins were suggested 3 times. The Vikings were suggested once, but they're probably the most well-off team on this list. You have a young quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater to build around. You'll still have Adrian Peterson for a few years. You'll eventually have to find a replacement for him too, which is pretty, that would be a fun thing to do. If not in the first draft, in the second or the third, drafting Adrian Peterson's replacement, seeing if he can kind of live up to what Peterson did. I mean, I doubt he would ever be able to live up to what Peterson did, but seeing if he could perform almost as well, that would be very interesting to see. The offensive line could use some work, as could the wide receiving core. Stephon Diggs and Laquan Treadwell, they're intriguing because of how young they are, but finding upgrades would definitely be necessary. The defense is incredible, which is kind of why I didn't want to choose the Vikings, because the defense, there's not much work that needs to be done. 4 of the top 5 Vikings players overall-wise in Madden 17 are on the defensive side of the ball. You have Harrison Smith, Linval Joseph, Everson Griffin, and Anthony Barr, those 4 players. And you even have Sharif Floyd a little further down. And they're all 28 or younger. So you have a nice core already set in place for, in my opinion, at least 5 years. That's always nice to have. So that's kind of why I didn't want to choose the Vikings. I mean, the only thing they really need is wide receivers and some offensive line help and eventually replacing Pearson. But, as of now, they're a solid team. They're playing in a brand new stadium, and they get to play the Packers twice a year, which would be pretty entertaining. But just because of the defense, I did not feel like picking the Vikings would be that appealing to me. I thought about it long and hard, but in the end, I just decided to not choose the Vikings. But they did end up number 3 on my list of the 15 teams, so I guess there's something to say about that. Coming in at number 2, the Chicago Bears, the 3rd NFC North team on this list. So there's a lot that needs to be done to this team to make them a contender, especially in the AFC North. Cutler isn't a terrible quarterback to start off with, but you need to find a better replacement ASAP. Ideally, in the first draft, you'd like to take a quarterback who you could groom over the next several years and then take over for Cutler. If not in the first draft, maybe the second draft. If not in the second draft, then find a young guy on a team, second or third string that you could trade for and try to develop him. But you definitely need a replacement quarterback. Now, I'm not part of the circle jerk that thinks Cutler is like this really bad quarterback. I mean, he's not the best, don't get me wrong, but I think he kind of gets a lot of undeserved hate. I think he's a solid quarterback who makes his fair share of mistakes for sure. But I think going into a Madden 17 franchise with Cutler as your first quarterback, there's a lot worse options out there. Alshon Jeffrey and Kevin White, they form a nice wide receiver duo that has a lot of potential, especially in Kevin White's case, but there are questions on the line and at running back. The linebacking core is great, but finding help on the defensive line and in the secondary is a must that should probably be addressed as soon as possible. And as with Detroit and Minnesota, playing 2 games against A-Rod and the Packers is intriguing. But, nothing against Chicago. I thought long and hard about them too. I was kind of flip-flopping them with the number 1 team on my list for a while, but I just ended up finding that number 1 team is more appealing than the Chicago Bears, and that number 1 team is the Baltimore Ravens. So getting to start off with a decent quarterback in Flacco is good, but at 31, finding a replacement in one of the first 2 drafts, I'd like to find one in one of the first 2 drafts, will be key since there isn't a future starter on the roster at this point. Ryan Mallett and Josh Johnson, I think we can all agree they're both no-goes as the future starters of the Baltimore Ravens. So finding a quarterback to groom behind Flacco for the first few years, that is definitely a necessity. I'd like to improve the running back situation because at 30, Forset's stint on this team is almost done, and I don't really envision myself naming Terrence West, Lorenzo Taliaferro, or Javorius Allen the starters a few years in. I just really can't see that, so I'd like to draft a running back, or maybe not draft. I mean, obviously free agency, you can, find a starter in free agency. You can find starters by trading with other teams. Now, I don't know how often I'll be trading because obviously the trade logic in not only Madden but all sports games, it's questionable at times for sure. So I don't know how much I'll be trading, but who knows? We'll take a look and see. Steve Smith is the best wide receiver on the team, but he's 37, so he's going to be done. If not after this year, then the following year. I don't know how what they're going to do in the game. But Aiken definitely isn't a future number 1 for us, and Perriman is a question mark at this point simply because he hasn't played yet, so we don't really know what we have in him. I think he can be a solid wide receiver in this league, but as of right now, he's just a big question mark. And we do have one of the best linemen in the league, and Marshall Yanda, but he's 31, so he won't be here forever. Our 2016 first-round pick, Ronnie Stanley, offers upside at left tackle, but aside from those two, the line needs to be improved for sure. And the defense is, in a word, old. Weddle is 31, Suggs is 33, and Doomerville is 32. Now, Mosley is only 24, Williams is 27, and Jimmy Smith is 28, but overall, this defense needs to be reconstructed, which I'm looking forward to, and I'd love to be able to make the Baltimore defense as ferocious and intimidating as it was back in the day, and I think I can accomplish that. One of the big reasons I chose the Ravens was getting to play in the AFC North, excuse me. The AFC North is one of the best divisions in football, and in my opinion, the best. We get to play the Steelers twice a year, the Bengals twice a year, and the Browns, who should get better as time goes on, twice a year. The rivalries are strong, and the game should definitely be entertaining. So that's why I ended up choosing the Baltimore Ravens for my Madden 17 franchise team. Now, just some quick notes. I'm aiming for 4 videos a week when Madden comes out. There's going to be 2 game videos and 2 league recap videos. So with the league recap videos, I'm going to try to do what I really haven't seen on YouTube a lot. So, think like NFL Primetime, or if you're too young to remember that, think what NBC does before Sunday Night Football, where they kind of go around the league and recap what happened in the games that, preceded it. Now, I don't know if I'm really going to do that. I don't know if I'm going to do all the games. I think that might be a little overkill, but I'm thinking maybe 2 or 3 of the best games each week, and then maybe just some league news, seeing who had the best performances or whatever. That's kind of what I'm aiming for, because you can finally watch CPU versus CPU games in Madden 17 this year very easily through the Super Sim feature. You just have to put it on slow, and you're good to go. That's something you couldn't do last year, unfortunately, but it's back in the game this year, which is where I got the idea for my league recap video. I think that would be something really cool. I hope you guys will enjoy it. I think you guys will once you see the first league recap video. So having said that, if there are more than 4 videos a week, even better. If there are less, just understand that I'm probably busy with real life stuff, which is why there were not 4 videos. I'm not gonna quit YouTube. I'm not dead or not sick or whatever. Just understand that I'm probably busy with real life stuff, which is why I couldn't get to Madden that week. So in conclusion, my team I'm using in Madden 17 is the Baltimore Ravens. So we're going to make Baltimore great again here on this channel. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope you are too. So until next time, it's Waldo. Have a great day.